One of the more interesting side effects of having a constantly growing YouTube channel is the vast amount of different viewpoints you get in your comments section. Funnily enough, many of my early videos had a vast majority of comments calling me a loser idiot who didn't know what they were talking about and needed to uninstall the game, and as time has gone on, the split between agreements and disagreements has come out a tad more evenly. But past that is people's own suggestions to problems I tend to talk about. Many people have solutions I would have never even considered, for better or for worse. And on Monday's video where I talked about the iridescent shard problem, I noticed a very common theme of people basically wanting to remove the grind from Dead by Daylight entirely. I'm going to circle back to those comments, but first, let's talk about what grinding is and where it originated. To grind or farm in a game is to dedicate a large amount of time to gathering resources or leveling. Basically, anytime a game requires you to invest more than, say, an hour or so into a task that's not directly required to beat the game, but instead offers bonuses, it's often considered grinding or farming. The first instance of this, to my knowledge, was actually early MMOs, or at least that is where the terms originated. I suppose you can consider secret collectibles and such in early games during the Dreamcast, N64, PS1 eras to have the grind factors, but no one really used the term until MMOs really started hitting the scene. You see, every game developer from the beginning of time has one goal: to get people to play their games and to have people who bought their games feel like they got their money's worth. Nowadays, a lot of criticism toward the AAA market for having bullshit prices has been tossed around, and my personal rule is if a game is AAA produced, every dollar I spend should give me at least an hour of playtime. And for indie games, every dollar should be at least half an hour in my honest opinion. So if I spend $20 on your indie game and I finish it in 4 hours, then I'm not going to be very happy. But if I spend $20 and I get 12 to 15 hours out of it, then it was money well spent. In this vein, the art of padding playtime has been common practice for a long time, and MMOs mastered the art of game padding by creating a gameplay model that essentially requires the act of farming and grinding to get to the end game. It transcends traditional gameplay conventions, as really there is no end game. There's always new gear, new stats, and a new story to be told. From MMOs, the birth of live service games began to form. The stark difference between an MMO and a live service game is MMOs traditionally have a linear-ish storyline you play through in a traditional gaming sense, but live service games focus more on sports or card game model. It's the same game over and over and over again, one you get better at through repetition, and one that seeks to create a familiar gameplay loop. PUBG, Apex, Overwatch, COD, Rocket League, Hearthstone, Valorant, League of Legends, DBD, and many more are all games who have birthed themselves on this live service model. A steady flow of content every 3 or so months, with many bouts of content every month and a half in between, has become the industry standard. And these games have had to figure out the same thing MMOs had to figure out years ago. How do you keep people coming back for more? Many answers to this have been battle passes, the content release schedule I just mentioned, and something being embraced more and more, a progression system. Now, I've already done an entire video on the progression system in Dogs Bite the Dust, and of course, as I mentioned earlier in this video, I made a video about the iridescent shard progression system. But one of the big things I've seen from people on that Iri Shard video was solutions or assertions that practically result in cutting the grind and down the rabbit hole down to what essentially would be a little over 100 hours, and boom, you have everything in the game. For example, quite a few comments were asserting that Iri shards should just start being tossed out at massive rates, including asking for a free 1,000 once a month and doubling the amount gained every level, coupled with people wanting shards every 10 prestige levels, which I'm not fully against on that one, but it would have to be like a reasonable number, like 100, so you have 1k by the time you hit P100. But realistically speaking, the solution isn't to just start doling out shards. Like I mentioned a few paragraphs ago, the main gain of live service model is to keep people playing the game. There's a reason the battle pass system became so popular. Many people think it's just for cash grab reasons, and sure, I can see that argumentation and even buy into it, except in games like Drop It Like It's Hot and Apex, where the battle pass pays for itself essentially. I don't consider battle passes that give you back the money to be money grabs, but they still serve the main purpose of battle passes, and that's player retention. Battle passes are one of the main driving forces that keep people people playing them. "Look, player," they say coyly, "we have all these awesome skins that normally cost $10 by themselves, and premium currency and all sorts of other cosmetics for basically free. All you have to do is play the game." And we eat that shit up every fucking time. Don't pretend like you don't. Even if you don't buy a battle pass, you need to admit that it is enticing. It seems like a great deal, and it usually is. The point I'm trying to get at is a game like Drove by Doves requires a grind set. It needs to have things to grind for. The new player experience is something I've discussed several times in the past, and I want to dedicate a lot, like a full video to it as well. But as somebody who is coming up on their 1-year anniversary of playing the game, I still have that new player experience fresh in my mind. The absolute daunting task of getting a vast amount of characters and leveling those characters up, it's a lot to take in at first. And yes, the grind is long, and I think it should be shortened a bit, but it is needed. If there's nothing to work for, the game quickly becomes stale and uninteresting. You should always play a game for enjoyment, but part of the enjoyment of games is a simple sense of accomplishment. And I'm currently closing into the point where I will have every tome done, every achievement, and every character at least P3. Then what? Then my main rewards are P100 my mains, which, as we've already established, don't provide anything of substance, and making challenges for myself while I wait for new content to drop. Why do you guys think that Otts has been doing these ridiculous perk streak challenges? Why do you think A-Run and Spooky Loops did this elimination challenges recently for them, where if a character dies, they can't use them anymore before they reach Eerie 1? Because they've logged so many hours in the game and they've done everything. So now they have to find new ways to keep getting that dopamine shot of accomplishment. Sure, winning games does that, but for how long? Once the prospect of reaching goals is taken away from you, the only thing left is to either find your own entertainment or play something else. This is also the reason I'm not down for allowing the purchase of tier 3 perks off the bat, which is something I saw a lot of people advocating for. I can't get behind being able to spend 2k Eerie shards on a perk you don't own at any time outside of a licensed content, obviously. I think people vastly underestimate how lucky we are to have this licensed content, and asking for it to be easily obtainable through Eerie shards is basically asking us to never have licensed content again, because neither the licensors nor behavior would make a lot of money off of these prospects. But I think working to get perks to tier 3 on the character you like playing is an important part of the grind that needs to be maintained. So yes, the answer to this video is that I fully believe DBD needs a grind. More so, I think DBD needs what MMOs have, a constant flow of in-game content. What DBD needs is something for players to work towards that will never be reached but always provides a small bit of progress. This is why my progression overhaul video was so important. Behavior needs to implement P100 rewards that make people want to P100 as many characters as possible, a constant goal nearly unreachable that we can always feel like we're working towards. Because at the end of the day, one of the biggest things about playing video games is that you always want to have a goal. When you don't have a goal, when you don't have something to work towards, then you can only play the game so many times before it gets repetitive and stale. No matter how much variety you can introduce through the gameplay, in something like Dead by Daylight, I've often talked about the variety of different perk builds and different play styles, but at the end of the day, it's always finish 5 gens or kill 4 people, and that is all it's ever going to be. And while that is in effect, we need to have outside goals, things to work towards, and reasons to play the game outside of the fun of the game, because no matter how fun a game is, no one is going to want to play for 8 to 10 hours every fucking day without some sort of goal in mind. But that's the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to let me know down below what you think. Don't forget we have an October sale going on in the merch store. We have 3 new exclusive Halloween hoodies that will go away at the end of October. But if you can get any of them to 10 sales, they stay forever. And to help you reach that goal, I've included a coupon code called Best Holiday that gives you 13% off any of the hoodies you buy. And a special thank you to my channel members, Nuclear Bomb and Spirit Upgrades, if you want to learn how to be thanked at the end of videos, as well as get other exclusive perks like discount codes, content teasers, and a special role in the Discord, click that join button down below. Other than that, I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one.